everybody, it's Calxiyn here. So, today we are talking about Cinder's fate. So, if you didn't watch the one we did about Raven, I suggest you do that, because we are now talking about why Cinder should or should not die. So, like, basically we have, four options here, and this is what we talked about before. So, Raven wins the fight and defeats Cinder, but Cinder doesn't die. Raven loses the fight, but doesn't die, but obviously that would mean that Cinder won the fight, right? And then you have Cinder beats Raven to death, or Raven beats Cinder to death. So I don't think they're going to kill off Cinder yet, to be honest. I don't think that they should, but I also don't think that they should kill off Raven. And so that leaves us with basically the option of her either winning the fight and not killing Raven, or losing the fight and Raven does not kill her. So that leaves her alive in both scenarios. So it's basically either her winning the fight and living, or her losing the fight and winning, but then Raven or Cinder not dying. But we are going to talk about those possibilities. We talked about the possibilities of Raven dying, so we're going to focus on the Cinder possibilities, basically. So, in terms of Cinder, like, we talked about this in the last video, but basically, like, I think it doesn't serve her character development to win this one. Like, I don't think it helps her grow as a character at all. I think it would be much more beneficial to the plot if she loses, because, like, so far, Watts and then Tyrion a little have been sort of shitting on her and have been like, oh, you failed us, like, you didn't get the relic and all that, but Salem has been like, now, boys, like, Cinder is our new fall maiden. Cinder has done this. Cinder has done that. But then, like, say there's that scene again to contrast to that scene in Volume 4, where Watts is like, listen, Salem, like, I told you this was gonna happen, and I told her not to do it, but she went and did it anyway. You know what I mean? And then for Salem to actually show that she has disappointment in Cinder, that she is actually upset with Cinder and what Cinder has done. Like, I feel like that serves a lot more development, because there's one thing to kind of have it out for RWBY and have and to be mad about RWBY and what RWBY did to her, but imagine, like, Salem, let's just call her, like, her idol for a second. Like, imagine basically your grim mom was like, I'm not angry with you, Cinder, I'm disappointed. Like, when regular parents do that, it's a little stingy, but when Salem would do that to Cinder, I feel like that would really grow in her development, because she'd be trying to prove herself to Salem again, and I feel like she really needs something like that, because if she wins all the time, all she gets is, like, a pat on the back and be like, oh, Cinder, you're such a good girl. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't give anything for her development. It just means that she keeps winning, and I feel like that as a villain, sometimes you need to lose to become a better villain. And I mean, that's just what people in general, like, you need to make mistakes to become better. And so far, Cinder is winning, and so I think that she should lose this one, and that would fit into the Atlas arc. So basically, I think that she should lose Mistral, and then Salem gets really, like, angry with her. Or at least, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed, you know what I mean? And then that drives Cinder to kind of be, like, better than before, so to speak, and so she really goes hard on Atlas and ends up winning Atlas and is now like, yes, this is exactly what I was supposed to do. Like, now, Salem will be proud of me again, now I'll show her that we're winning it back, you know what I mean? Like, something like that. So what do you think of that sort of idea? Because I feel like that's probably the best thing that they could do with Cinder's character, is have someone be actually disappointed with her, like, actually angry with her, in terms of, like, Salem actually saying, like, wow, like, you really disappointed me, like, I expected better from you, and then her trying to be better. Like, I feel like that really furthers her character development, but if she just wins, they're just gonna be, like, the only development that could further would be Watts, which would Watts be like, oh, I underestimated you, which Watts isn't that interesting to begin with, so I don't really care if he gets developed in that way. You understand what I mean? Like, it brings more development for Salem if Salem says that she's disappointed in Cinder, and it brings more development for Cinder if Cinder tries to attempt to better herself because of what, because of her loss, right? And so then that would make Atlas a win, because she would try even harder than before to get everything, because now it's her value to Salem that is really on the line, and I feel like that's a very interesting conflict, you know what I mean? And maybe her even rapping on Emerald and Mercury a little bit, like, no, like, you guys didn't do well enough last time, like, you let, like, Yang and RWBY best you, and sort of almost punish them as well. Like, take out her anger, with her disappointing Salem on Emerald and Mercury and sort of abusing them in that way. Which, again, that would maybe further an Emerald, redemption arc anytime soon, because she sees, sort of how, like, angry, Cinder has become because of her failure and whatever else. So yeah. So what do you think, Hunter?
Sorry, it's just like you go off in a blur, and I'm
like,
at the second sentence still.
You know what I mean?
I do agree with you that I feel like Salem will be the static villain, and I feel like you're right. There is still room for Cinder being. There's still room to not be static. I mean, she's not static. We've seen her that she's. You keep on saying that, like, finally being, but I feel like she has been disappointed. She's disappointed Salem in the past.
Well, we haven't seen that. At
no,
least.
we have that scene.
What do you mean?
Like, I thought you were the girl who wanted.
Yeah,
power.
But that was to taunt her. Like
that
was like emotional manipulation. Like that was reverse psychology. Like I don't think she actually meant that. Like she would like. Oh, I thought you were the girl that wanted power. It looks like you don't want it that much as I thought. You know what I mean? Like, that's supposed to be
still seems
a reverse
like
psychology thing. You know what I mean?
But then what would that... So you
I mean, this is real disappointment, is basically. Okay. Like, I don't mean... This is the same disappointment that she had for Tyrion, right? That's what I'm saying. Because that wasn't a taunting, like, trying to get Tyrion to better himself. That Tyrion was... She was genuinely upset with Tyrion, and that broke his heart. Like, I want sort of the same thing to happen with Cinder right now. You understand what I mean? Because I do remember that scene, and I know what you're talking about. But that was more of, like, if Crow, like, teased Yang in training to try to get Yang to do better. You know what I mean? And even Tai Yang did that. He did that to Yang to an extent. Like, he was sort of making, like, passes like that and sort of like, oh, you must have lost some brain cells along with that arm. Like, that wasn't in combat, but that was sort of a similar, like, thing. You know, it was supposed to be this teasing little taunt thing to get to kind of motivate Yang to an extent when they would be in combat, right? And so I feel like that's sort of the same thing. So I feel like that's vastly different from what because there's what Salem said to Cinder, and then compare that to what Salem said to Tyrion. Like compare like her tone there and what you remember from those two scenes. Like you can tell that with Tyrion, it's not. You can tell with Tyrion, it's not a case of just trying to get him angry so he'll do better next time, or that he'll do better in the moment, like trying to fuel Cinder's emotions so she'll be better, so to speak. But I want like genuine Salem disappointment, you know?
Okay. Yeah, no.
But even if we have seen it before, we can see it like a heart, like, because before it was like a, like, oh, I thought you were the girl that wanted power, and then she could be like, bam, like, you disappointed me, you know what I mean? So it could progress into something where before it was like a soft disappointment. I want some hard disappointment, you know?
Okay. Sure. Yes.
You feel me? So do you think that would be good?
I agree with you that that would work.
Yeah. So here's the other thing. That I wanted to talk about, or I was thinking about. So, I don't know how to explain this. So basically, I don't think that Cinder's gonna die, but let's say that she dies. Where does that leave room? So somebody said that if Cinder dies, that RWBY would get the Maiden powers because, and I think that would make RWBY a little OP, but let's just, like, say that plot-wise instead of, like, the logistics of stuff being too overpowered, I guess. Let's just focus on, I guess, the story part. So that RWBY is basically on Cinder's mind so obsessively that that would be what she was thinking about when she passes away. And so they would try, the powers would try to go in RWBY, but then, like, maybe reject her because of the silver eyes, right?
I see.
And so I think that's a very good idea. And then there's also that Cinder intentionally thinks of Emerald in her last moments because, like, she doesn't want to disappoint Salem even if it's from beyond the grave, and so she puts the powers into the person that is, I don't want to say closest by, but that is of most reachable access. And so I think that, like, that would really fuel Emerald's development, because Emerald really only is in this because of Cinder, and if Cinder dies but wanted her to have the Maiden powers, I think that she would say that, oh, I owe it to Cinder, you know, to keep going then, because this is basically Cinder's death wish, right? And I feel like that would be very interesting for her development, but also if they want to redeem her, I feel like that would be super interesting as well, because then you'd have Emerald sort of conflicted because she wants to kind of you know, respect Cinder's wishes, but at the same time, she doesn't care about Salem, right? And she said that herself, so I feel like that would be a really good lead-in. The only thing is, I don't think that Cinder is gonna die right now, but if she does in the future, I feel like that this is still a very good, plot point, if that makes sense. So what do you think about that version of events?
I think that works well as well. I just feel like Cinder has to die. If she's gonna die, I think she needs to die at the end of the series.
Yeah.
You know, I think she needs to die at the climax, at the 11th hour.
And that's, and I feel like moment. With Raven, not that she has to die at the final hour, but at least give her 2 more volumes. That's just my opinion on her. Like, Crow has gotten 4, or 5, I should say. So at least give her, like, another 3. You know what? Wait, no, he wasn't at volume 1. Hold on. 2. Let me recalibrate. 3.
He was mentioned.
Volume 3, volume 4.
Volume 3 is when he comes.
Yeah,
in.
volume 3, volume 4, volume 5. So 3 volumes. So give Raven another 3 volumes, and then, you know, it'll be even. It's fine. Yeah, I knew that 5 was a bit like, wait a sec. He wasn't there from the beginning. But you understand what I'm saying, though, right, Hunter? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that, like, characters need to kind of serve their purpose, like, before they die, unless them, like, getting cuckolded like that is, like, very emotional. Like, for example, like, the reason, like, I didn't want Jaime to die in Game of Thrones was he still had to tell Cersei, what the old lady did to their son. And, like, that unfinished business, like, made me very anxious. And so Weiss's unfinished business or Penny's unfinished business really hurt me, in that regard. And so I think that would be a good death. But I feel like since Raven doesn't really have any unfinished business, and Cinder, does have some, but I feel like she should, you know, she didn't even attempt to kill Ruby. Like, she was just like, oh, I'll be right back. Like, keep Ruby alive, while I'm doing this, and I'll take care of her later, sort of thing. Like, that unfinished business is unsatisfying. Like, Penny's unfinished business was very satisfying, in my opinion, and that's what made her death very good.
We're ever gonna see Geppetto, like, when he shows up?
I don't know. We can focus on that in another video. But you understand what I mean? And so, again, I don't think that Cinder should die right now, but if they really, really want her to, those are the 2, that's the avenue that I see being best. Like, say that Jessica Negri's just like, I don't want to voice act for Cinder anymore, and they're like, well, shit, we gotta kill her off, because that's what usually happens. At least on TV, I think for animation they try to grab a replacement. But let's say they're like, okay, we need to kill Cinder off now. I think the best possible way to do that would be giving the Maiden powers for Emerald and having Emerald feel that conflict, because she doesn't care about Salem, she doesn't respect Salem or anything like that, but at the same time she respected Cinder and her final wishes. And so that sort of conflict is really good for me, I suppose. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that works really well. So yeah, I guess that's it. Is that all we're talking about?
I suppose so.
So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember that you guys should pledge to our Patreon or join our Discord server. I'm beginning to lose my voice by the end of these, and so I hope that you guys enjoy our one last video that we have going on today. So we will see you there. Bye-bye.